All right, family, what's going on? It's your main man, Joe Dupree, 100 BLK, the Black Station, down south here in the NO, representing Lafayette, Louisiana, representing for the whole South. And I wouldn't be on the scene if I didn't have my brother from another mother doing this thing on the East Coast. Brother Fatim, what's happening, my brother?
What's going on, Joe? How you doing, my brother?
Man, it is another Tuesday, the last Tuesday in the month of October as we make our way into November.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. A little bad weather up in New York. I'm in South Carolina still, but the nor'easter is, banging away in the New York tri-state area, going up to north. And this is the same storm that hit the West Coast
Wow.
earlier, late last week, and it traveled through, man. And you know what happened through Tropical Storm Ida, which Hurricane Ida hit you guys, and then it came up to us, and we
Right.
all suffer losses, during that storm. So people have to take these storms serious. We're in global warming. Climate change is real. Climate justice for people, all people, but especially people of color, because who are affected when it comes down to climate change majority of the times is people, black and brown people. So people,
You're right.
please be cautioned out there to respect the weather, respect climate change.
Definitely. And speaking of which, since you're talking about what affects us as a people, let's give a little rundown of what we're going to be talking about tonight.
Hmm.
Uh, One of the big myths is what's really going on with COVID. We're going to talk about COVID, of course. A lot of things going on in sports that has to be COVID related. A lot of people are returning to college football games. To the World Series is going on tonight. Your team didn't make it to the World Series. My team didn't make it to the World Series. But nevertheless, Atlanta and Houston about to get it on to a capacity crowd. I'm sure Mardi Gras down here. Everybody's talking, man, will Mardi Gras happen? Well, right now they're saying all systems go for Mardi Gras. And also, we're going to be talking about the holidays as they are right there looming, really right around the corner. You got Halloween, and after Halloween, Thanksgiving and Christmas will be here before you know it. Holiday gatherings, and we're going to talk about the movies. The movies on the uptick. So let's get in with this COVID conversation because there's a lot of COVID restrictions getting actually reduced all over the nation. I know right here in the state of Louisiana, they actually made it that you don't have to wear a mask indoors anymore. They mandated it was mandated until today, and starting today for the next 28 days to see how things work out, you do not have to wear a mask indoors anymore. The question is, are we laxing some of the restrictions too early? Your opinion on that, brother Fatim?
That's easy. I'm just sending a quick message. So, at the end of the day, you guys have certain people, governors, or certain states have governors and mayors that are doing different things, and they want to leave it up to the people. I'm in New York, and I'm just going to tell you the mandates that are put on New York are tighter than it has been across the country. But New York was one of the hardest hit states. Was in the first
Right.
states was hit hard with COVID. I mean, the amount of death that we had, the refrigerated trucks outside of hospitals because we couldn't store the dead fast enough. The morgues were overran. Funeral homes were backed up with bodies. So New York, New Yorkers pulled together, and with these, I don't want to say mandates at the beginning, this just to deal with COVID. You got to realize we had to get those numbers down. We had to get death
Oh yeah.
numbers down without a vaccine at the end of the day, and we had to bring those numbers down. So to talk about this mandates, I don't agree with what's going on in your state. New York City, we have counties in New York State that have higher infection rates than New York City. As of 3 days ago, New York City infection rate was
Wow.
crazy, 1.25%. That's almost unheard of in a pandemic. But a lot of New Yorkers are just doing what a lot of folks have asked them to do. And that's the thing. You can't go in certain indoors. We're talking about not wearing a mask. You can't do that in New York City. No, 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 no. So folks, do whatever you choose to do. But at the end of the day, Joe, um, it's your choice. But remember, what you do, there is a reaction to what you do. So if you don't do the right thing, then you're not going to see positive results. If you do the right thing, you should see positive results. And let me just say this, jump in there, that it just came down today that the FDA has approved Pfizer vaccines for children 5 and 11. Now we have to wait for the CDC to meet in a sense of how they are going to instruct, how they give that dosage out to the children.
You know, I've discovered that this whole COVID situation and how states handle COVID has a lot to do with who's in charge politically.
Correct.
Is it the Democrats or the Republicans? And I feel that that's very sad on a lot of levels, which I won't get into right now. Um, at the end of the day, I think each one of us need to be precautious, regardless of what restrictions are in place, because at the end of the day, we still have scores of folks who are dying on a daily basis from COVID-19.
Correct.
And I just think we got to do better. We've got to do better as individuals. People want to always talk about the Constitution and rights. The question is, what is more noble? What is more righteous than for you to make sure that not only you're okay, but your fellow brother and sister are okay, that your fellow man and woman are okay. To me, what is more noble or righteous, that your actions not only save yourself, but you ensure that you save those around you. And once again, it is just my opinion. Each one can handle it the way they want to handle it. You have the vaxxers and you have the anti-vaxxers. What really, and the anti-vaxxers always come up with stuff that really ceases to amaze me. I saw a post today that made me laugh because it said, so you can vaccinate the world, but you can't resolve world hunger. And I'm like, the same person who posted that is the same person who complains about any type of government assistance to help the downtrodden and the people who are poor and impoverished. So I'm like, it saddens me when I see things of that nature. It just saddens me. On another tip, I want to bring this up too. The insurrection. It's now coming out in the news that people who were parts of the insurrectionists, were meeting with individuals in government who have been elected to positions of power to try to figure out what do we do next when we take over this country and we reverse what the people have put in place to bring in the new powers to be. And to me, that's just so sickening, because that's treason. That's treason in its highest form. And that they talk about certain individuals that are in the House of Representatives and that in the Senate that were meeting with these people, strategizing on what do we do when we take this thing back over. It's just saddening and sickening to me. Fatim.
Well, you said you said a lot there, Joe. I was trying to remember the last part that you said on the. Oh yeah, so let me just hit that last part, and I give a shout out to my brother. I just was listening to his song "Juicy Fruit," and a shout out to James Mtume and to Watha Ag on that song "Juicy Fruit." And the reason why I brought up Mtume, because Mtume used to say this all the time, and he would say, "Left wing, right wing is still on the same bird, and is on that same white bird." So at the end of the day, you could look at the Republicans and you could look at the Democrats. They all honestly are part of the same problem out here. Yes, we do see how the Republicans tend to do certain things, and their party represents a group of folks, and the Democrats honestly represent another group of folks. But at the end of the day, people of color tend to still suffer. Doesn't matter who's in power at the end of the day. So we got to do better. Now to move on to the insurrection. Yes, that some of the insurrectionists had toured. Some of the our congressional leaders gave some of the insurrectionists tours the day before of the Capitol building. Do
Mm.
you understand that? So
Wow.
when you talk about certain political leaders of this country meeting with those that wanted to do a coup on this country and talk about treason, and then talking about really going against the Constitution, that's why at the end of the day that this committee that is doing this investigation on this insurrection is so important. And that's why former President Donald Trump and the Republicans are trying to hold this up and praying that they can take over the House and remain in control of the Senate so that it would be null and void after the midterm elections. This is very, very dangerous. Now, my opinion, Joe, I think that both houses should come together and possibly, I don't know if it's redo the Constitution, but the Constitution it's an interesting document, but it was a document that was created during slavery. And yes, there's amendments there, but at the end of the day, folks are not benefiting from this Constitution at the end of the day. And if people are not going to respect the laws, and if you get the highest office in the land, the president, Trump, that is not going to respect it and tell people not to honor subpoenas and things like that, the government needs to make examples of those individuals, because if you don't have rule of law, you have chaos. And then the United States become just like any other third world country in the world if they can have chaos and have coups in their country.
Wow, very good point. I'd like to take time out and say hello to some of our listeners and watchers. To Pastor James Vincent, who was one of our guests on the show. He's on watching right now. Much love to you, of course, to one of our very faithful watchers and listeners, Miss Rhonda Hurston. Much love to you. Share this. Tell a friend to tell a friend. We are on. We are having community conversations because what goes on in our communities is important, and we need to start having these conversations from our perspective and where we can hear from our people to understand how we feel, because we are a part of the workings of this country. We are a part of the successes in this country. And you and I had talked earlier today, Fatim. One of the things we're going to dive into right now is gun violence.
Mhm.
You know, I try to be careful with my words because people always try to take your words and say, oh, that's really not the case. But, I can say this at the present moment, gun violence is an epidemic that is running rampant through many of our communities. It's sad that every time you turn on the TV, every day, on a daily basis, sometimes on an hourly basis, sometimes on a weekly basis, you're seeing where gun violence is prevalent, where gun violence is happening again and again, where you can't even go to HBCU homecomings without gun violence erupting. You can't go to high schools without gun violence erupting. You can't go to shopping malls and to shopping centers without gun violence erupting. And now that we're getting so close to the holidays, which we're going to be talking about a little bit later, we really have to start asking ourselves, is this the only way we can resolve our issues? Is the only way we can resolve a conflict is by getting a gun and going out there and beginning to use the gun against our brothers and sisters, against our fellow brothers and sisters? And this kind of all ties in with each other when we talk about the insurrection, because what I'm coming to find out, and you can like it, if you can like it, leave it or love it. It seems to be there's two sets of rules. They can do certain things, and all of a sudden they're very patriotic. We do certain things, and there's a problem. As we know right now, and we're working very hard to get Grandmaster Jay on here and talk about what is his status right now, because it seems to be those who showed up in DC can do what they do, and you barely hear about them. They're patriots, but a man like Grandmaster Jay and in fact shows up, and all of a sudden they're the terrorists. So we've got to start really asking the question: why is there two separate set of rules when we're both doing the same thing, Brother Fatim?
Well, the black man and the black woman has been considered the boogeyman and the boogie woman in America. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about that. That's number one. So anything that we do under the Constitution or under the status of law, they find ways to go after us. You understand what I'm saying? They tend to go after us. Go back to the Black Panther Party. You can even go back to Nat Turner when risings on plantations with Nat Turner. But any and every time a black man and a black woman try to liberate themselves, you see our adversaries try to continue to keep their foot on neck. So when we look at Brother Jay of NAFAC that followed the law to a T, he didn't have people bring guns that didn't have a license to bring guns, but he sent a message to white America that if you have the right to carry guns, then we have the same right to carry guns. He didn't do anything that white folks haven't done. You understand? But let's talk about this whole issue about crime. And we talked a little bit about this last week about conflict resolution. And one of the things, Joe, is that a gun creates false power to folks. It creates false power to folks that have common sense, and it also creates false power. It's a false narrative to folks that can't come to a resolution to solve their problems. At the end of the day, it's how people look at somebody that carries a gun. It's the status of America. America is a violent country. It's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. So when we tend to look at gun violence in our community, and we should not allow other people to weaponize, because violence is in every community, but we have to take better control and concern about our own community and our own children. Yes, we are seeing more increase of gun violence, especially during this pandemic, especially in urban communities across America, and there needs to be a concern, and we have to address this. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. But we also have to put resources in the community to try to stop folks to head in that direction. And if we don't have those kind of resources out there, and if you don't have the parenting and the guardianship to teach our children the right and wrong and teach these babies. Like I said, I'm staying with my cousin and I'm watching how the family comes together with these babies, and they are doing it the way we were brought up. But there's a lot of things that are missing that I see. And remember, what our parents did to bring us up, the foundation is solid. But you got to realize that technology is different. What the children is seeing and what they have access is different. And we have to realize we cannot parent a 21st child with a 20th century method. So we got to get creative. We got to get smarter. You understand? But keep that foundation of love and discipline with our children.
You know, absolutely correct. We have to make adjustments and stop making excuses.
Oh, of course.
We've got to start making adjustments and stop making excuses. We have to be proactive and not reactive. Many a times what we are doing is we are coming after everything has happened, and then we get caught up in a whole bunch of dead rhetoric, because all of a sudden now it's not that we really want to be solution orientated. We want to be scene orientated as the one who brought the solution to the table. When the truth about it is we need to be talking about a lot of these things before they even happen. And we need to be putting things in place that they don't happen. That, like I said, we are more proactive than reactive. Brother Fatin.
Let's give a shout out to those dads. I don't have it in front of me. I didn't even plan to even think about it. But what about those dads that stepped up where there was a lot of violence in the school? I don't know if it was.
Oh, yeah, in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Louisiana. Yo, we need to get one of them fathers, a couple of those fathers on our show, because those fathers stepped up at that school and said that, you know what? We're going to bring dads together to step it up. To curb this violence in our children's school. I take my hat off to those brothers. At the end of the day, that's what it takes. I remember in my daughter's elementary school, the parent coordinator reached out to me and she said, look, Brother Fatin, we need to get more fathers involved. If you turn around, you see women teachers, we see mothers picking up the children, but we don't see a lot of fathers, this, that, and other. Me and her sat down, we came up with a plan the plan to get fathers back into school and active with the children in the school to make sure that that the kids saw, the fathers saw males taking that leadership role that they should be in. You understand? Back in that family structure, even if the mother and father is not together, the bottom line is that you have to parent the children together, and that's what it's about. So I commend those fathers in Louisiana that stood up and still standing up to protect their students and those children. Because remember, the stickler, it takes a village to raise a child.
Indeed, it does. And that was after a situation that went viral on social media. Fights broke out in the school. I believe it was about 23 individuals that were arrested from those fights that broke out. There was videos of the fights that went viral across social media. And then, the father stepped up and I think they say dad's on duty. To be exact,
That's
that's
on
what they
duty.
church say. Dad's on duty.
That's on
And
duty.
listen, we have to, as men, begin the process, especially of men of color, of showing other young men of color that we are protectors, providers, that we are more than what they portray us to be.
Right.
And that starts with each one of us. Sadly, when it comes down to fatherless households, the majority of the fatherless households are within communities of color, and I feel that's very saddening. But once again, we have to change that narrative. We can't let people keep telling us what our narrative needs to be. We have to change that narrative, and we have to be the ones to be the catalyst to start showing on both sides that uh, we can have a productive society and we can win, and show and be the examples that folks will see us and say, what must I do to achieve the level of success that you have achieved? And we need to be open to give the word of, this is what we did to do it. That, so many times we hoard information for ourselves, and that's the reason why we don't make any progress, is because we're too busy hoarding information when we should give that information freely. Because we should all be at the point of our lives
Mhm.
where we say, I don't care if you do what I do and you overachieve me. If I have a blueprint, I should give it to you and hope that you do as well, if not better. And then you put the blueprint back out there about what you added on to my blueprint to get even more success, that we continue to build on the success.
That's it. You said it all, Joe. I don't really have much to add to that, because you said it all, and that's what it's called, passing the baton. Pass that baton to the next one, to do as you've done, but to exceed even further. And you keep passing that baton, and that's how we become better. That's how we become better. That's how
Right.
we become better as a people. I was just playing a gospel song the other day, and it was by Mahalia Jackson, and it was
Happy
the
birthday,
song.
Mahalia. Today's her
Yeah.
birthday.
Oh, I didn't know that. Happy
Yeah,
birthday,
yeah.
happy heavenly birthday to our queen sister, gospel queen, Mahalia Jackson. I didn't know today was her birthday, but I was playing the song and I asked my cousin. I said, "You remember what that song was to?" And she said, "Yeah, that was to in the movie, Imitation of Life." And in Imitation of Life, it showed the function of family, but it showed the dynamic of how black folks not only taught their folks, but they taught white folks. At the end of the day, they taught white folks, and I sit back and I think about that today, and say, where did we go wrong? But somebody brought up on Reverend Sharpton show the other day, and I remember talking with my other cousin. And I got to bring him on. We call him a Kingologist. He's a student of Dr. King, and you would really be impressed with him, Frankie Adams. Talking about the crack epidemic. We look
Mm.
back at drugs, heroin, and all kind of other drugs, but when we look back at the crack epidemic, it not only destroyed our black fathers and the black men, it also destroyed our black women, and it took both parents out of the household, which put more um, issues and burdens on the shoulder of children. And I think that was also another dynamic of as we look at COINTELPRO of them trying to stop another black leader. And you see, we was headed in a direction of not having just a head, because when you kill the head, the body dies. We were looking in a sense of having a mass leadership, just like Brother Jay. Brother Jay's caught up in a legal matter right now. And what happens? It seems like the body has died at the end of the day because of his spokesmanship, his charisma. You understand? At the end of the day, understanding the law. And see, when you have more individuals like that, when they take one out, there's another one to take their place. We got to learn from that. But unfortunately, a lot of times we're conditioned to look for that one leader, and we look up to that one leader. And if they take that leader out, it pretty much kills that movement. We got to get better and stronger, man, on that. And the same thing with family structure. If they take out a mother, if they take out the father, we got to have mechanisms that step in, that continues to go forward. And we had that with Big Mama, with Auntie, with Uncle. You understand what I'm saying? That had that same respect as the parents. And I don't know, and we let our viewers comment on that. I don't think we still have that as on a wide basis as we had it back then.
No, I don't think that, the big mamas are young big mamas now. I mean,
they get out there and get dirty and down and fighting in the street. You look at TikTok. Look at TikTok, bro, and you see some of, not just the mamas, some of the grandma, and I applaud the grandmothers that look good. I applaud those grandmothers that look good. Ain't nothing wrong with it. But you gotta have this up here. You gotta you have to have wisdom through your experience, through your living through life. You have to be wise. There's nothing wrong with having fun, but you gotta remember there's a place and a responsibility when it comes to you and yours.
Amen. Amen. And I applaud all the women out there. And I applaud all the brothers out there. Anybody who's trying to make a positive effort to bring about the betterment not only to themselves and to their future generations, but to their communities. I was in a meeting today, and I really want to talk about this because I heard something at the meeting with people who are stakeholders.
Somebody want me to get a bell. I got my bell. James want me to give a bell. I gave the bell.
I want to talk about the stakeholders, and because I was in a stakeholders meeting today, and sometimes when you hear the rhetoric from the stakeholders, when it comes down to what they witness, you understand just how lost the narrative is and how lost we are as a people. I had a stakeholder speak about social services, welfare, food stamps, and then living wages. Now, I want you to hear what I just said: social services, welfare, food stamps, and living wages. Now, this stakeholder was talking about, she had an individual that had received a job, a person who was on social services, welfare, and food stamps, and received a job making a living wage, not a minimum wage, a living wage, a wage that was $12 or $15 an hour. But because at the moment that they made that living wage, and they had not, now this is the key thing that I think the stakeholders need to understand, that individual was not used to the management of the living wage. That person winded up quitting that job because that person felt that they had so quickly lost the governmental services, because the government said, if you make this much money, you don't need our help. Which I think we need to get to a place where we teach those who are, no matter whom they are, especially those of color, that once you get a living wage, you have to have management skills of that living wage, that you don't have to be dependent upon the system. See, education, James just typed in, education is the foundation. People have to understand that we have to understand how to manage money and wealth. Because if you don't learn how to manage money and wealth, you will always be broke. And you will always feel that no matter, it saddens me when I talk to folks who are making $15+ an hour, which is a living wage. Now, that's not what I call an optimal wage. That's not what I call perfect money, but that is a living wage. When I see people making a living wage, and you have to factor in living wage with how many children, because if you're the only person making $15 an hour and you have, let's say, two, three, four, five kids, and you're the only source of income, now all of a sudden for a family of six, the wage of $15 an hour is really no money. So we have to begin to teach folks how to accumulate wealth and how to manage money. Money management should be keen. Debt management should be keen. That we aren't at the place where when we begin making, I hear people who are making 25. I've heard a person who makes 23, $25 an hour saying, I was better off when I was on food stamps and my rent was only $5 a month because I was on Section 8. That saddens me, Fatim. Fatim, the floor is yours.
All right, so let's $15 a wage in New York and some other places like California is not a living wage, unfortunately. But I do understand
Right,
what you're
right,
saying.
right,
It
right,
depends on where you are
right.
at the end of the day.
Geographic, right. And I think the wage, another thing, living wages should not be mandated across the board because cost of living is different in different areas. Like you said, a $15 living wage in the South may be equated to a $15 minimum wage in New York or California because of the cost of living. And see, that's where I think also wages, when it comes down to wages, should be somewhere better regulated. Because understanding this, making $50,000 a year in New York City
Hmm.
spends different than making 50,000 a year in in
South
Tennessee, in
Carolina.
Lexington, right,
Oh,
right, in South Carolina,
mhm.
Lexington, Tennessee, in Louisiana, where making 50,000 a year in a New York City or a Los Angeles, California, you po broke and lonely.
Right. So let's go back to this. So I remember when I first would bring my workbook home as a kid in elementary school, very early on, and they're teaching us how to count money. And we learned how to count money, but we didn't learn how to budget money. We didn't learn to save money. We didn't understand the value of money. We didn't understand credit. We didn't understand these things. And when you don't understand these things, you gotta remember, a lot of us live, our families live paycheck to paycheck. You also talked about people that was on the system. I've seen people that have been on the system, on public assistance, that definitely need it, but managed their money and did better than people that made a decent salary
Come
because
on, come on.
they had
That's
better
true.
money money management skills than the folks that made over or better than a living wage. You understand what I'm saying? So they had better management skills. That's why I look at our comments out here and it says it starts with the family. It starts at home because but if it can't start at home if home don't know it. If the parents don't know this, then it's passed on to the children. You got to realize knowledge is passed on and lack of knowledge is passed on to the children. So if you don't have that knowledge and if you leave it up to schools and when you get into high school and learn economics, the economics is not teaching you the value and how it just teaches you a little bit about money. Do you understand what gentrification means? Do you
Come on.
understand the resources that in a black community that is a poor black community that when gentrification comes in and you bring in other folks, especially folks with money, then the banks invest in that community and then you start to see the community rise up. That's a system, brother and
Come on.
sisters. That's
Come
a
on.
system that is out there to destroy one and uplift another. You
Come on.
understand that?
Come on.
They and then the drugs come in, the crime come in, and don't you see that maybe after 15 to 25 years, that community changes? And then you start see more white folks come in, you see more businesses go up, you see people investing, you see crime goes down, and you see drug leaves the neighborhood. That's not magical.
Right.
That is part of how this society runs. And if you understand that and take better control of your household, then your block, then your community, then you live better. But if you don't understand this, then you become a victim of of your creature of society at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, I always say on here, wake up. And I really mean it from the bottom of my heart that we need to wake up. But we really need to begin the process of teaching one another how to do better. And it's got to be a give and take. It's got to be, some of us are so closed minded to receive information that might bring about the change to uplift us. We don't want to hear it because what we doing, we feel like works for us. And don't get me wrong, I, I'm just one of those brothers who feel like I can always learn something from someone and I can always do better. But I have to open my heart and my mind to receive the information that is coming to me and also be man enough to look in the mirror and say, maybe the way I've been doing it is not necessarily wrong, but can be done better or another way to give out a optimal result that is better yielding. And it ceases to amaze me how sometimes we only want to receive certain information from certain folk that we don't want to hear the truth unless it comes from a certain individual that right now, uh, across the spectrum of social media and the social media platforms, you have influencers. You have certain folks that can say the sky is falling and everybody gonna run outside and go, you know and I believe that we should begin to trust truth and knowledge no matter where it comes from. And we have to do better as a people if we want to grow and be better as a people. We're going to have to really start doing some give and takes. We're going to have to start looking at some of these younger generations of folks and see what they bring to the table and stop discarding them and discounting them. Oh, you don't know what we know. You didn't grow up like we grew up. No, they didn't. Nor did we grow up like our parents grew up. You know, there has to be an evolution and understand within the evolution those who change and begin to go through the transformation of betterment don't become extinct because you either going to evolve or you're going to wind up extinct. You don't believe me? Test it. The dinosaurs tested. You either evolve or you get extinct, or there comes a traumatic event that brings on extinction.
Mhm.
And then the question is, do you have enough knowledge to rise from the ashes,
Yeah,
Brother Fatim?
yeah. I think it's interesting. I don't want to turn this and go down a different road, but I think humankind, human beings are so arrogant that they feel that they can't become extinct. And yes,
Mm,
you can. Yes, we
mm,
can. I'm no
mm.
different. You understand? We can become extinct. I think we're seeing this no matter how COVID came along, how it came along. It is a game changer. There's no ifs, ands, and buts
Right.
about it. It's a game changer. You know, you
It's a
know,
population regulator.
population regulator. We watched, some of us watched The Walking Dead, and we said we would do this and do that if we were in that fictional television series. Well, we're not in a fictional television series now, but to see, we
Mm-mm.
talked about these kind of things happening back in the 80s, and we talked about preparedness, about being prepared with this. And I'm just saying that a lot of us live for the moment. We don't
Mm,
plan for the day. We live for the
mm.
moment. A lot of us, we conditioned to live for the moment, or some of us are in circumstances that we live for the moment. But we gotta be visionaries. We have to have vision, and the visionary doesn't start when you become adult. Vision starts with our children. That's why when we get together during Thanksgiving and the holidays, and I know we're going to touch about that, but family is so important that sometimes just gather the kids around and don't preach to them. Have a conversation, have an open
Mm.
conversation with them and get feedback from them. Find out what they're going through in school, what their peers are saying. Let them give them the opportunity to be real and have real conversation with you. Let them say, again, I understand that some people about respect, but let these kids express what's going on, what they are seeing and hearing and feeling and experiencing, because then you get a better idea, because our reference point may not be their reference point.
Good
You
point.
understand what I'm saying? The
Good
dialogue. I
point.
hung out with my younger cousins and her friends at an event down here, and they wasn't misbehaving. They doing what children do. But I was looking at the mother and then their grandmother, and they're delusionary on some of the things that these children are doing. They're just delusionary because they don't understand it.
Fatim, that is such a great point. I'm just coming out of, it's homecoming season at most HBCUs. I was a weekend before this last weekend. I was in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, at a SWAC school, UAPB, for their homecoming.
Mm-hmm.
This weekend, Southern University, one of the schools that I do a lot of work for, had their homecoming. This coming up weekend is FAMU, and I know that Howard's done had their homecoming, and it's just homecoming season, and it's funny because I have to admit I don't consider myself a old man, but I am an older black man, and I have children that are grown. All my children are grown except one, uh, and he looks like he's grown. Lord have mercy, he's done got tall as I am. Uh, but what was so funny, as I sit on campus this last past weekend and watched men and women pass by, I noticed that there's a culture change. There's a culture change in dress, in conversation. There's a culture change in the way things are. Now, listen, you can sit there and keep saying, "Oh, what are these young folks doing?" Same thing our mom and dad said to us. What the young folks doing? My mom and dad grew up on 45s and LPs. So when
Mm-hmm.
they saw me with a Walkman, and they grew up on 8 tracks. They were like, what's this? What you doing? What's this music? What you bopping your head? Ain't no music. See,
Mm-hmm.
so I understand, but like you said, we've got to sit down and see, we've got to understand there's a reason why you were given 2 ears and one mouth,
Mm-hmm.
where you could listen more and speak less. And when you do speak, make sure that your speech has relevance, that it has substance. Sometimes I think we're so busy trying to be, quote unquote, so social media politically correct, or so social media flashy and savvy, we don't understand that the words that are coming out of our mouth and the are producing actions and consequences that is not uplifting the culture, it's destroying the culture. And let's shift into the holidays, man. Or better yet, go ahead and say what that scratch make me know something coming. Hit them for
Nah, 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 nah. It just made me think, but I want to hit something before the holidays that you went on to before you go to the holidays. But
Go ahead, go ahead.
um, okay, but I want to just comment on this. I look back at our parents, and since me and you are similar era, our parents listened to Gladys Knight,
Right.
Diana Ross and the Supremes, Marvin Gaye, um, Ray Charles. All they
Stevie
listen to
Wonder.
that. Stevie Wonder. They
Stevie.
listen to that music. Then I come up in the hip hop era. You
Right.
come up in the hip hop era.
Right.
But when hip hop came out, it was the Sugar Hill Gang. It was
Right. Right.
it was it was Grandmaster Flash,
Soul Sonic Force.
Soul Sonic Force. And you got to realize, even though when I put that hip hop on in the house I was a teenager. I'm talking about 17, 18. I didn't have to worry about turning the music down because the artist cursed or said something
Right.
disrespectful. That, you understand what I'm saying? And not to take away from our parents. Our parents had them Richard Pryor records and
Oh yeah,
Red
they had
Fox
Richard
records.
Pryor,
You better watch.
Dolomite, All of us
They
heard
had those
Dolomite.
records, and they kept those things from us, and us that found them, we snook and played them when our parents wasn't home.
And we're
But
like,
the bottom line,
ooh.
yes, we did, yes, we did. But what I'm saying is, we had structure. So
Right.
even when I listened to Richard Pryor as a young teenager, my father, he came up and he was like, he walked up on me and my friends listened to Richard Pryor and he was like, what y'all listening to? And we told him, he said, y'all are getting older and we understand. But as you're doing this, still have respect for yourself and respect for other folks that come around you. If you want to do this and you're older, do this in the confines of around yourself, but have respect for others. And that's what I'm trying to say. Something turned. And a lot of people say in hip hop is describing what they are seeing and feeling. And I understood that. But there was a plan to help destroy R&B music. I know that's another subject, but it was a plan in place to destroy positive and moving hip hop and rap. That's another conversation. But
Right.
I'm just saying,
Hold it.
when you
And you know
don't
what?
control that, when you don't control the music and you don't control who signs your checks, then you become puppets and they are the
Mm-hmm.
puppeteers. So that's what I'm saying. We got to get out of being puppets for people that don't have our best interest. And the bottom line is the dollar for them and we get crumbs. Stop it, man. Wake up.
You know, that's real talk as we shift into the holidays. I do want to say this to put the cherry on top of that. You know,
Mhm.
we got to look at the plethora of resources that are in our community, and we got to stop letting people come into our community and suck us dry of all the resources in our community and leave us in a worse shape than we were before they showed up in the community. You know, we just got to stop that. I mean, that's my opinion. That's how I feel. If you don't like it, then cut off. But at the end of the day, we got to stop that. We got to stop letting everybody set up shop in our hood. Everybody set up shop in our community, but we can't rise and grow in our own communities, but everybody else can. Other folks come to our communities off our music, off of setting up clothing stores, off of setting up convenience stores. They get rich in our community. We for some odd reason can't get rich in our own communities.
No,
And,
no.
and that's sad.
Yeah.
That's
Before
sad.
you go to the holidays, you mentioned something that I thought we was going to kick off on. I just want to just break the energy for a quick moment.
Okay.
It's in line with what you said. I want to just hit the World Series real quick. I want to give a shout out to both teams. First of all, the Atlanta Braves, who is my nemesis because I'm a New York Met fan and a New York Yankee fan. Some folks you can't be both, but I am. When
Mm,
they play and go against each other, I'm a New York Met fan. So there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But I respect and the late 70 Yankees, what the hell, woo, and then the 2000
woo,
Yankees, the mid 2000
woo.
Yankees. So, but kudos to the Atlanta Braves. But my main shout out goes to Dusty Baker,
Come on.
the manager of the Houston Astros. And the reason why I say that, because Dusty Baker did not have to come out of honestly retirement to do this job, but he needed
Right.
to bring some credibility back. The Houston Astros needed to bring some credibility back to the Houston Astro organization after the cheating scandal that rocked the Houston Astros. Yeah, at the end of the day. So I gotta give kudos to him. Now, both teams, the Mets had it's competitive against both. Back in the 86 Mets, they went the distance. And if they had to face Mike Scott, the scuff baller, back in 86, I don't know if they would have won that seventh game, but we beat them in 6. And then Atlanta has always been a nemesis to the New York Mets. I tip my hat off to Atlanta. I guess the reason why I decided to pull for Atlanta Braves because of hammering Hank Aaron. Since we
Come
lost
on.
brother Hank Aaron early, I believe it was earlier this year,
Right.
I tip my hat and I will put my competitive side away. And even though I respect Dusty Baker, I just feel that I'm
This
going
one's
to
for
put
Hank.
on that.
This one's
Ooh,
for
let's
Hank,
say that
huh?
Atlanta hat. I'm going to buy a
Okay.
Atlanta hat and a jersey that says Aaron tomorrow and root
Okay.
for which they are playing right now, the World Series. But I'm a root for Atlanta. But Dusty Baker, give them a run for their money, and let's have a 7-game series.
Fun fact. Hank Aaron from Mobile, Alabama. I had the pleasure of staying at a hotel right beside a stadium in Mobile that they named after Hank Aaron. I'll probably post that picture when I get off here. And you know, and hats off to Dusty Baker also. You know, you're right. He came in to bring about credibility to an organization that was riddled with controversy, cheating, and a lot of other stuff. But you know, thank God that that both organizations will be remembered because of the heroic acts of a man of color who came in to save the day. And you know, hey family, uh, yeah, we not all posted up like this with our hands up against the side of a building getting searched down. We do great things. We do great things. And the holidays are up on us.
Yeah. One
And
more thing, Joe. One more thing.
come on, come on,
One more thing, real quick.
come on.
To my Latin brothers and sisters,
Come on.
Major League Baseball needs to do the damn right thing and
Talk to me.
retire Roberto Clemente's number 21 all over baseball, not just with the Pittsburgh Pirates, but what this
Come on, because
man
that's
did
my
for the
team.
game of baseball and what he did for humanity. He died doing work for humanity. He died in a plane crash for doing for humanity. He got his 3,000 hit off of John Matlack of the New York Mets. And
Come
this
on.
man was a superstar in the game of baseball. And I think that the Major League Baseball does not give this man his just due, and they need to retire 21 from every team in Major League Baseball for the remembrance of Roberto Clemente.
I agree with that. The Pittsburgh Pirates are my team. I love Pittsburgh. I actually grew up on a guy who used to, if you know who,
Willie
you know,
Stargell, baby.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that's how I got into baseball. I played baseball in elementary, in junior high. James, no, we played baseball.
I
Baseball
did.
was our thing.
That's my thing
Um,
still today.
oh my goodness, my head, I'm sweating just thinking. Listen, family, let me switch gears.
Yeah, go ahead, brother. I
Oh
just had
yes,
to get I had to put drop
yes,
that on
yes,
you.
yes. The holidays are here.
Yes, sir.
Halloween is coming up. Yet now, look, if you celebrate Halloween or not, that's on you. You know, that's it. You know, that's how I don't go into all that. If you
Could I go
celebrate
into it for a
Thanksgiving,
minute? Could I go into it for a
you
minute?
can let
Yeah.
me do my spiel and I'm gonna throw it to
Okay.
you.
Okay.
If you celebrate Halloween, that's on you. If you celebrate Thanksgiving, that's on you. If you celebrate Christmas, Kwanzaa, that's on you. But the holidays are coming. And listen, because of COVID and the loss of so many folk,
Mhm.
and because of gun violence and so many other things, the holidays aren't happy for everybody. Keep that in mind and spread some brotherly and sisterly love as you go out there in the holiday spirit of understanding everybody might not be as blessed as you are. Brother Fatim, say what you need to say,
I
my
like
friend.
that, brother. I like that. I didn't know the clock was ticking that close. I thought it was like 8:35, man. We got
We're
five
going to keep it
minutes.
going until we get tired. Keep
Nah,
on.
nah, I gotta jump off and jump on another one. But
Okay.
well, let me just say this real quick. I was gonna break this down. When I became more conscious and I stepped into Islam, I stepped into that with before I had children. And when I was brought up on Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. And now we find the facts out about certain things and certain truths out here. But if we go back to our childhood, a lot of times because of even those falsehoods, we had great times as children with Halloween, if it was done properly. I'm not talking about people doing things to candy. I'm talking about being supervised properly, this, that, and the other, Christmas and things like that. So when my kids were born, we didn't celebrate these holidays. And I watched the reaction of my children. And I thought one day, I said, is it fair, excuse me, to my children to not experience this happiness and joyous? So we got together with some folks and somebody came up with an idea, and I thought it was a tremendous idea. Why don't we take some of these holidays and change them into positive days for our children? So what happens if you Halloween comes, why not get children together, have them dress up in positive costumes,
Mm,
bring them together, and have each child tell a little bit about the costume that they're wearing. So it's a learning event. Have supervised candy, not only candy, but other kind of treats for them, since it's trick or treat, but make the trick not something, but make it something that may be educational. Make
hmm.
it positive. You understand? When it comes down to Thanksgiving, you don't have to deal with this whole thing with the Indians and the Pilgrims, and we know the whole history. Deal with the whole thing of family coming together, having a great time, sharing and giving. That's what you do. Then you take Christmas. What we did with Christmas, we turned it into what is called Children's Day. We looked at the Christmas tree as a tree of life. We didn't have to call it a Christmas tree if you didn't want to celebrate it like
Mm,
that. We call it a tree of life. Then we wrap the gifts in red, gold, and green.
mm.
Red meant you don't touch that. Take it back, and you don't touch it because that's something that may be negative. Something green and gold is positive, but you turn that into something that is positive. That's where, at the end of the day, the children can still go to and fro to school and experience the same joy as their classmates are experiencing following the traditional holiday, while you have kind of made it into something that is positive and that can be a learning event for your children and can be passed on from generation to generation.
Wow. As Miss Pearlie Tolliver would say, when I was at KYEA, looking at the old clock on the wall, it's about 8 o'clock, family. I know that my brother Fatim has somewhere else he has to be. Listen, it has been a great Tuesday night of community conversations. We didn't even get a chance to talk about some of the movies that are coming out. We'll do
No,
that
no, no. Go
later.
ahead. No, no. Go ahead, bro. I can stay in
We're
a
gonna
few minutes.
listen. I had the awesome opportunity to check out
Mhm.
007, the new
I did
007
too. I
movie.
did too.
It was off the chain. I highly recommend you go see it. One
Mhm.
of the movies I was very much anticipating, because people who know me know I'm a big sci-fi guy, was Dune. I was more than impressed by Dune and all the undertones and all the things in Dune that really had me like, wow. I can't wait to part two. They have announced as of today. For those of you who are worried, will they come out with a part two? Will they finish the story? Yes, they will. Legendary has slated it to be finished in October of 2023, and I'm looking very forward to see how that transgresses out. The Eternals are coming. Uh, there's going to be a big net fit. Some of the stuff on Netflix. I know they got the new Iris Elba along with Regina King. The Western movie coming out. Listen, family,
Harder they
that's
fall, I
that,
think it's called. Harder they
yeah,
fall.
yeah. The harder they fall, that's going to be off the chain. They say that's going to
Mhm.
be Django and a whole bunch of other stuff wrapped into one. So get ready, get ready, get ready, family. As we get ready to get out of here, I want y'all to stay safe. Understand a lot of COVID, as we said at the beginning of the show, restrictions are being are no longer in place. That doesn't mean you don't need to make sure that you take care of yourself and your family and make sure that you protect yourself and your family. As Sugar Free would say, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. So I infer that you stay ready and get ready, because Mardi Gras is coming, the holidays are coming, a lot of partying is coming, and I don't want to see nobody sick and leaving this place in a time of celebration and in a season of joy or jubilance. So, with that being said, Brother Fatim, I'll give you the closing word, and we get ready to get up out of here.
Well, I saw 007, and I was, I heard all the critics. It was pretty good. I thought that I've seen a better that this brother did. I'm not going to tell the ending because that takes away, so I
Right,
wouldn't do
right.
that. But I was looking for a little bit more action in it, and I didn't get that from that 007. I'm planning to go to the movie. Me and my cousin was talking, so we probably try to get into Halloween and Candyman, before
Yeah,
this
yeah.
weekend. Just try to watch that, and then you hit it harder they fall, and also on BET Plus. If you have BET Plus, check out the Family Business. They have
Mm.
season 3. I met some of them. I met the author of the Family Business, real great guy, and check those things out. So That, and then on the restrictions that's in your area, where New York is putting more mandates now on municipal workers. Mandates are being pushed in New York, and they are not playing in New York. And I know that's a very controversial situation, but it is real. So, as in your area, they may be not wearing loosening, not wearing masks. You cannot go into a building without a mask in New York City. They're not playing. We are not out of this pandemic. Don't be a fool. Vaccine or no vaccine, however you choose to walk, you got to protect yourself. And that's what you need to do.
Yeah, and family, we're out. Tune in next Tuesday for more community conversations. Next Wednesday, we're going to come up with Wellness Wednesday. You can check that out. I know that Brother Fatim has the open lines. And what else you got going on, Brother Fatim?
Okay, so yeah, I got the open line tomorrow night, and then an open line on Sunday morning, 8 to 9 on WBLS. You go to WBLS.com if you're not in New York. And of course, I produce 2 nationally syndicated radio shows for the Reverend Al Sharpton. And I also do a show mostly on Thursday, but since I'm in the Carolinas, you know, I do a little double duty on Tuesday, Tangy Tea. And you can go on Facebook and put Tangy Tea of Life in, and you'll see me joining that crew in a few minutes.
Okay, family, we up out. Peace, love, and all that good stuff that goes with it. Listen, we'll be back next Tuesday. Y'all have a great one. We out of here. Peace.
Peace.